I also think the mage class mechanic has a very similar design, as it's also tied specifically.
Like, look at these spell effects, man. Like, you're comparing those animations to, like... that. All right, but for real, though, his most recent video is Ashes of Creation. Again, he wants to show the progress in 3 years on Ashes of Creation. He says, Ashes of Creation's combat has come a long way in the last 3 years.
Having it over at twitch.tv/Snargaverse. By the way, I'm live almost every single day talking about Thin Air because I've got absolutely nothing better to do.
Because Ashes of Creation isn't out yet, and you keep making content for it that we're still watching.
And neither do
we're on just as much copium as he is.
Do you? Because it's about time I put my thoughts into a script for feedback, as the combat is far above anything I could have expected. But before we get into...
Okay, yeah, all right. So he's on some serious copium with the combat, guys. The combat in Ashes of Creation is dog shit. I'm just going to put it out there. It's like F tier. Honestly, I would compare it to World of Warcraft, but I think WoW is probably just better combat. Like...
Our beautiful patrons and coped out the wazoo Twitch subs and I would love for you to grab yourself a Kyola, because I think I'll approach this video in 2 main segments. A discussion about what I thought of the combat in general, and a comparison to what Ashes of Creation's combat used to be during their test in Alpha 1. Because lately, over the last 2 to 3 months, I'd say...
Yeah, honestly, this is good. We can see exactly like the side-by-side. This is good.
Changed drastically from, hey, that looks pretty good, to, oh my god.
Yeah, I'm still gonna say it. The cape mechanics are too much. There's too much cape shit going on. It looks like something out of, what's that Avenger called? What's his name? Oh god, the magician.
Changed drastically from, hey, that looks
Doctor Strange. It literally looks like the cape from Doctor Strange.
Pretty good too. Oh my god, it looks insane. And I'm excited to discuss this with you all today. Now,
I am least excited for the combat.
Let's begin, shall we?
Thanks, Miata. Also, it's not the same shirt. It's a different shirt worn on a different day.
I think it goes without saying that the response to this showcase was overwhelmingly positive. Not only is the combat itself really starting to come together, but the design philosophy behind the fighter itself is pretty damn interesting. It's a unique design, has a lot of...
Why are all the arrows going in circles?
Flavor, but more importantly, continues that trend of Intrepid listening to the feedback that we've been giving them over the last 3 years when it comes to that combat. So first off, I want to talk specifically about the actual moment-to-moment gameplay involving the weapons, because this is the part that involves all archetypes, not just the fighter. Overall, the weapon attacks themselves have had massive improvements across the board to spell effects, impact, but more importantly, that freedom of movement. The best part of the whole redesign, in my opinion, is how the team have managed to keep the greatsword feeling heavy whilst allowing for that instant feedback on your character's movement. A key component.
It doesn't look heavy though. He's got it rested on his shoulder.
mmorpg design, in my opinion.
He's just kind of...
The only criticism I have, and it's more nitpicky than anything, is the animation itself seems to be skipping and freezing in a couple of frames, making the animation look choppy at times. Oh my god. Whether this is a design choice or just requires a little more refinement is...
I don't feel like the sword is big enough, I would agree. But also, it looks like crap. Like the combat, every time I see the combat, I'm like, man, it's worse.
Unknown, but this was also brought up a lot in my community and in the forums, so it is worth mentioning that
I think the graphics look great.
As I also share these thoughts. Now, as for the fighter itself, I think it's probably one of the best archetype designs they've shown so far. The class mechanic, combat momentum, is very interesting. It doesn't seem to be directly inspired by anything other than Ashes of Creation's own combat mechanics, so that shows great promise for archetype design in general. I also think the mage class mechanic has a very similar design, as it's also tied specifically...
Like, look at these spell effects, man! Like... What are we even talking about? Let's compare mages.
to the weapon combo.
One game was made in 2014, and the other game is still under production in 2024. It's under creation in 2024.
System. Therefore, are we looking forward to some more unique design for the rogue, bard, and summoner?
Look, what are we even talking about?
Therefore, are we looking forward to some more
Still Alpha 1, though. No, we're in Alpha 2 now.
design for the rogue, bard, and summoner? Well,
Alpha 2 comes out this year.
I will tell for now, but things are certainly looking positive for Ashes of...
Like, you're comparing those animations to, like... That's way better. Like, I don't even understand. How is a game that was made in 2014 look better? And I have effect opacity turned down, I think. Yeah, my effect opacity is turned all the way down. Like... It's not even close, man. I get to roll gore on top of people, right? And this is, in fairness, Witch has some not so great effects. It's like when you compare it to other classes, Witch's effects are like, you know, kind of mid, right? They're like whatever, right? You compare this to like Awakening Megu, it's not even kind of close, right? I guess he's using a staff, so I can pull out pre-awakening. Yeah, show Awakening Dark Knight. Okay. Let's go to Dark Knight. Again, the game was made... Dark Knight came out in, I think, 2017. Dark Knight came out in 20... That was 7 years ago. Okay. $2017. Okay, 2017. It's not even close, man. Actually, not even close. Like, look, then watch this.
Creations combat. Now, but think unique design for the rogue, bard, and summoner? Well, only similar design, as it's also taught in general. I also think the mage class mechanic has a very similar design, as it's also tied specifically to the weapon combo system. Therefore, are we looking forward...
In fair comparison, BDO1 Alpha, there was no BDO1 Alpha. It was just, this is Alpha 2. This is Alpha 2. This game has been under creation for like 8 years. If you compare Black Desert Online at 8 years of creation to this at 8 years of creation, let's talk about which game looks better.
To some more unique design for the rogue, bard, and summoner? Well, only time will tell.
Honestly,
for now, but...
compare this to Guild Wars 2. And tell me Guild Wars 2 doesn't look better. Like... He's talking... This video is to show you how far the combat has come, guys. I'm not seeing it, man.
Things are certainly looking positive for Ashes of Creation's combat. Now, before talking...
Yeah, Guild Wars 2 looks much better. That's what I mean. Like...
Talking about Alpha 1, I just want to talk about some critique related to the tab targeting aspects of Ashes of Creation. What is it you guys actually want from...
Also a fair point from Skuko. And how many of these effects do we see in PvP with more than 3 people in it? I have no interest in Ashes of Creation, nor did I crowdfund it. But is it possible that they were just designing the visuals with mass PvP in mind? As in, so they can render effects and still run the game without lag. There's always going to be lag in large-scale PvP. It doesn't matter what game it is. Like, the technology just isn't quite there yet for servers to run without lag with that many people on the screen. Certainly having smaller effects helps, but, like... If you're gonna do that, why not just go the old school RuneScape route, you know?
From MMORPG combat. Do you want active dodging, active blocking, and fast-paced combos that are not bound by any form of basic World of Warcraft global cooldown? Well, Ashes of Creation offers these very things. There is an active dodge in this MMO. We've seen many possible variations of it throughout the years, and I'm sure it's still under refinement, ready for future showcases. In addition, active blocking is also a mechanic mechanic that's present in this MMORPG, and we saw this throughout the whole of this month's showcase, showing some possible weapon skill tree options.
Yeah, but didn't they just talk about how they started making the block system like recently?
From the shield itself, as the shield animation was proccing a reflect on hit. So I'm excited to see the types of ways that we can customize the active blocking gameplay in this MMO. Finally, if it's the UI and global cooldown based design that you guys are worried about because you don't want to be playing through the UI, well, there is no global cooldown in Ashes of Creation. The game's weapon and melee combat is designed around animations, where every skill seems to have its own unique time to use as displayed on the tooltip, and is able to be sped up through itemization or progression. This is one of the critical components to making action style.
That's just like normal though, right? Like,
Games like Black Desert feel good, but Ashes of Creation have refined it in a way that allows the game to have actual teamwork-focused open-world content, dungeons, and
there is no shot he literally just said that Ashes has better combat than BDO. If you listen to it very carefully, let's do it one more time. Listen to what he says.
Like Black Desert feel on the tooltip. Every skill seems to have its own unique time to use as displayed on the tooltip.
So every skill has a unique time to use, but I want to point out, and then BDO, you can actually cancel skills halfway through a lot of the time by casting them off the hotbar, or casting them when they're in the middle of their animation. If you want to cast something else, you can do that too. This looks like it's limiting you to finish the cast of one skill before moving into the next skill. That's far behind BDO.
And is able to be sped up through itemization or progression.
Yeah, that's just standard. We have attack speed and cast speed buffs in Black Desert, and basically every game has something like attack cast speed buffs, right? Like this WoW has something similar too, doesn't it? Like this, literally, like every game does this. It's just like standard.
Is one of the critical components to making action-style games like Black Desert feel good, but Ashes of Creation
yeah, exactly.
Find it in a way that allows the game to have actual teamwork-focused open-world content, dungeons, and bosses that you...
Explain that. How are the open world... How is this right here any different than killing Garmoth? That's the problem. Add 100 more people, guys, and tell me you have to do the mechanic. That's the problem with world bosses. This is nothing new. Every like MMO goes through this. Yeah, do they have mechanics? Yeah, you just don't do them because there's so many people there. You two-shot it anyway.
Utilize a Trinity system, or in Ashes of Creation's case, they're actually using a 4-pillar system, as the Bard seems like it's going to be a vital part of Ashes of Creation.
That's weird. The Bard is actually normal size. We expect our Bards to be about roughly half the size of a normal person.
Encounter design. So I'm really not sure why people are consistently asking for action style combat from this game when the team have clearly showed a much more modern...
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like I agree, Chet. Like I just didn't like the way he said it. This is like a more refined Black Desert combat system. It implies that this combat system is in any way at all even remotely equivalent to what you find in a game like Black Desert. It's not even just Black Desert. This game's combat isn't even where like some of the other games in the MMO genre are. I would consider Lost Ark stronger combat than this too. This is something I would expect from like New World. It's a little better than New World. Better than New World.
Any combat that exists on the market right now. But I digress. Your feedback is of course very important, and I'm sure the team is enjoying your overwhelmingly positive responses. But how far has the combat come since Alpha?
Yeah, this is what I want to see.
Has the team's painstaking iterations finally paid off?
Because I've been following this for a long time, it doesn't look like the combat's gotten a whole lot better.
Well, let's take a look back at what
it used to be stationary, and then they allowed you to move during skills because people said that was stupid.
Combat used to be, and use that to look forward to future iterations. Back in mid-2020, the team showed off their first
this is before I even started looking at Ashes.
iteration of their hybrid combat system. The initial design was highly inspired from games like Guild Wars 2, offering basic weapon combos that were intended to be weaved in between the longer cooldown, harder-hitting class-specific spells. The iteration was okay, in my opinion, and the class spells themselves functioned fairly well. However, the weapon...
This looks almost exactly the same to what we have currently, but the animations and graphics have been improved. Am I crazy? Is what he's doing in the combat itself. If you look at the combat, how the sword is swinging, what it looks like, what is going on the screen, and you compare it to current day, it's basically the same thing with better combat and graphics.
Weapon combo side of the game was designed around a forward motion animation lock.
Yeah, this
iteration was decided upon due to the feedback given around the APOC testing era, saying that the free flow action style combat was too floaty and lacked a lot of impact. So
no, I think Global Labs comes out in like 2 hours.
In an attempt to fix this, the team decided on a locked animation that gave the attacks more of a committed feeling to them. This ended up not working out, unfortunately, as the overall implementation was clunky and just made the moment-to-moment gameplay feel bad in both groups.
That looked like it was better. But what do I know? I didn't get to actually play it, but like that looked honestly a little better.
Scale content. Nobody wants to be locked into an animation that pushes them forward against their will. What kind of multi-billion-dollar
Yeah, who would ever want that?
Company would design a
just get good, man. Like it's part of learning the class. Okay, that skill moves me backwards.
Combat system like that. Oh wait, so that led the team to implement a temporary split body implementation that was essentially identical to Guild Wars 2. You could attack freely with your weapons whilst moving freely in combat. However, this discussion was quite a heavy one, and a lot of critical, important feedback was given on ways to—
I don't see anything changing. Maybe I'm the only guy, but like everything he just showed, it didn't look like anything was different other than the graphics. Like,
improve the design while still keeping that highly desired impact and weight. Therefore, enter 2022 with the first iteration of their reworked combat. The general control scheme remained the same, allowing both for the left mouse button and keybind iterations, similar to Guild Wars 2. But
again, the graphics and the combat look better in this one, but how is this different?
Whole new approach to the movement and impact of the weapons in general. We saw the slower, heavy attacks from the game's greatsword gameplay contrasted with the game's much faster dual daggers, and I personally thought it was a huge, impressive step.
Like, look at the animations, they're just not there, bro. I mean, compare this to Kunoichi and Ninja's animations and tell me Blade Spin doesn't look cooler than that. Like,
into a brand new action—
and it's also cooler to use.
Focused mmorpg combat system, and that catches us up to today. An almost perfect version of hybrid combat that allows teamwork and action to synergize well, complemented with an in-depth archetype skill system and incredibly interesting weapon skill trees. All of this is designed to lay the groundwork for future iterations, features, and balance. Overall, I don't think there's a single person out there who doesn't at least want to give this system a try to see how this combat—
oh, we're gonna try it. I'm gonna farm Ashes of Creation one way or another. We're gonna play it when it comes out in 2029.
feels in their hands, and I'm almost confident it will be a success. To conclude, I just want to mention that constant critical feedback has gotten the game where it is today, and as a—
yeah, you guys don't have to try it. You guys can watch me try it. We can all make fun of it together.
community, or rather this community, will remain committed to giving critical feedback throughout all aspects of Ashes of Creation's development, because it's clear now more than ever just how important critical feedback is. But as usual, I am just one nerd desperate for a good MMO, and my opinion means nothing without yours in the comments below. And hey, as mentioned at the start of the video, come follow the stream over at Twitch.
Yeah, my biggest problem with Ashes is the combat. So yeah, I was very critical when watching this, but that's because, again, I'm very, very critical of Ashes of Creation's combat. I think it's like leagues behind where it needs to be currently. And yeah, is it in Alpha 2? Absolutely. But BDO in Alpha 2 had it had super armors, it had frontal guards, it had it still had like the action combat feel. They were just kind of fine-tuning it as it came out, and I don't even think video had an Alpha 2. It just went from alpha to beta to release, and then bam, we were done. But like, it just got more refined as it went, and then it released, as far as I'm aware. This is, I don't know, it looks basically the same with better graphics every time.